Ed Kraft, welcome to the maiden voyage, the inaugural episode of the Light podcast, sponsored by Aspen Live Well. You're your first guest we've ever had.
Well, I'm kind of honored to be here. It's been a long, hard road.
That's good. That's good. Well, we're going to talk about Lucium, the topical that you've invented and created for laser, but give people a little bit of a background about you and kind of who you are.
I've been working with facilitated permeation of topical biologically active substances on the surface of the skin, using light energy to propel these into the skin. I hold 4 patents and 1 patent pending with this technology. What we're talking about today is part of the patent pending and also is part of the issued patents that we already have. So this goes back a long way, 2001. This is 20 some odd years that we've been doing this actively.
Okay. Let's also make sure we understand kind of why people are using laser. What are the benefits of laser therapy specifically? So we can, just like morphine, cause a photochemical response in the tissue. Light waves go in. They turn into photochemical responses in the tissue. The first response of that is we can quiet a nerve just like morphine does. We can turn the nerve signal off to the brain. Pain goes away. When the nerve stops firing, that tells the trigger points, like let's say in a shoulder, in a tight frozen shoulder, the trigger points turn off and muscle tissue relaxes when that nerve stops firing. So we kind of gain range of motion and pain relief. If that's all laser did, that would be cool, but that's really not the benefit. The real benefit of light is we are photochemically taking cellular function back to homeostasis, mitochondrial response back to homeostasis, full ATP production as oxygen now floods in to the mitochondria. The cell goes back to homeostasis and performs its normal duties, whether that's tissue repair, healing of bones, ligaments, tendons, muscles, any tissue in the body, speeds that repair back to its normal rate of return. That's really what light energy is doing. But the problem has been that we are having more trouble with higher power at deeper tissues instead of it just scattering throughout the skin laterally. And we're having trouble with darker skin and things like tattoos. We can't even get light through those or much at all. So we're not getting a response. So that's what light should do. But we're going to talk about how the topical can enhance that and create, you basically remove the barrier to some of those problems areas that we see in laser therapy.
The light also, the topical contains polyphenols, which are anti-inflammatory and pain relieving. They work in different pathways, something that's not like ibuprofen. They do not retard healing, they promote healing. And the light energy actually deposits some of these constituents from the topical into the stratum corneum where it elutes into the deeper tissue. And that stays there after the treatment. So even though you're getting a certain amount of anti-inflammatory effect from the light therapy itself, which you want, then you have the chemical anti-inflammatory and pain relieving, but not with the traditional pain relieving or numbing compounds that are in a lot of topicals.
So the topical is not a numbing cream. It's got its own photochemical properties, just like light does, and then combined, they're enhancing each other. It's like a 1 + 1 = 5.
It's a very synergistic approach to doing what you're doing.
Awesome.
You're combining 2 completely different things together, and you're getting a pronounced increased outcome.
We've talked offline about the world's first clinically relevant topical for on-skin laser. Tell us a little bit about what that is. Lucium is what we're going to call it, and why that's even a thing.
When light hits the skin surface, the rough skin surface and the subsurface of the stratum corneum, you lose about 30 to 40% of the light that hits it. It's the way we're built. We are built to scatter light when it hits the surface of the skin. If you have a laser and the culminated beam hits this material that is so heavily scattering, the culmination of the beam is lost. So it doesn't really go through the skin, it just kind of goes sideways. And you lose the penetration. You always get a certain amount of forward scattering, but you lose a lot to the lateral scattering.
Okay. So in the market today, practitioners are trying to apply laser. Are we talking about off skin, on skin, Both.
This topic is about on-skin. It could also be used for off-skin with a slightly different formula.
Okay. So on skin, the problem that kind of practitioners that are using on skin lasers right now are facing is even up against the skin, when we hold it away from the skin, we're losing a lot just in the depth,
Absolutely.
the distance it travels, light dissipates, and then the reflection. But even in on skin, we are not permeating that outer layer of dermis. We are spreading laterally and not getting much energy into deep tissue.
Absolutely.
Okay. So kind of describe now what this topical does. What's the difference between using something like a high-powered laser, a class 4 laser, without it, and now adding it? What's the difference? What are we seeing?
The topical is comprised of high refractive index oils, and the stratum corneum likes oil. It's a lipophilic substance. So the oil penetrates into the stratum corneum, and it creates a matrix that is one refractive index. There's a whole bunch of particles within the stratum corneum: melanin, cell walls, proteins, all different stuff left over from when the skin differentiated from the epidermis, the live epidermis, into the non-viable stratum corneum. So it's a matrix that is just this is just a lot of stuff in there that
Sure.
is not clear. It is an opaque layer. So the SC layer, when you put the oil on it, it tends to clarify it.
Okay.
In the optical range that we're doing in the typical red to near IR, it actually becomes optically clear. So when the light hits it, it goes through the stratum corneum. It preserves the culmination of the laser beam, and then it goes on through into deeper tissue. It is estimated that the stratum corneum causes about 100 to 1,000 times more scattering than the bulk viable tissue below the stratum corneum.
Okay. So the key is to get through the stratum corneum.
Get through the stratum corneum with a culminated beam.
We've got kind of a little graphic here on what it looks like for our laser, Aspen laser, class 4, but this could be any on-skin laser.
Any on-skin laser.
So we look at a kind of a graphic between what happens without the topical, because right now there is no topical in the world that does this. This is the first one.
This is the first one in this application.
Okay. So we've got a graph of what it looks like without compared to side by side what it looks like with. Kind of walk us through that and what we're seeing.
This is an exaggerated graphic just to make the point. But you can see when the light hits the surface of the skin, it actually spreads laterally, more so than it does directly. It's sideways scattering or lateral scattering. That lateral scattering diminishes the beam, and it progressively goes down, and it's just a lateral motion. All the light just goes separately. It doesn't go straight. It's not forward scattering. It's lateral scattering. And it continues, that lateral scattering, it gets multiplied as it goes through the viable tissue, the dermis and the below the epidermis and below the epidermal layer and into the dermis. And then there's all sorts of other stuff in the deeper tissue, veins and different structures that are in the dermis.
So it's allowing us to get light deeper into the body.
You're allowing to get a deeper and also with a higher power.
Okay, great.
So when you put the topical on, it preserves that beam through the surface of the stratum corneum and preserves it on through into the deeper tissue. So you get more light deeper. The dose is deeper and the dose is higher.
Right. And light being chemical medicine, dosage is critical. We get the right dose at the right time and the right person, and we get a photochemical response, right?
That's
light
the whole idea.
Never reaches the intended target. The first law of photochemistry says it doesn't matter how long you hold it there, no photochemical reaction takes place. So you've got to get to the target.
It has to get there.
Awesome.
And then we're just making it get there.
So in other applications, what we've seen in our laser application class 4 is the more melanin in the skin, the darker the subject, the harder it is to get light to penetrate and the more heat we get on the surface. So we're not even going to get to tattoos yet. We'll cover that. But let's just say in more melanin in the skin, I either have to turn the power down or move the head of that wand very quickly, which is poor for absorption. So I'm using either less power, penetrating less the darker the skin, and I've got to move faster, which is poor for absorption. but now we can use this topical. How would that appear with different skin tones?
The refractive index of the melanin, there's a melanin dust that's encapsulated within the stratum corneum. And when you put the topical on, it kind of negates that. So it makes the whole stratum corneum one refractive index. It becomes a non-issue.
So there's a graphic you got a graphic for that. Let's look at that in a graphic and kind of show the first layer of what's happening here.
This is typical. As the skin tone gets darker, the melanin dust content is increased. So as the skin tone gets darker, you just get more light scattering on the surface. And the more light scattering causes more lateral distribution of light rather than forward scattering, it's lateral scattering. And when you put the topical on, you get a more straight, a more forward scattering situation.
So it almost like it makes it more permeable.
It makes the light more permeable to the skin surface. Absolutely.
Great. So, okay, that's darker skin. Now we get to tattoo, and this has been a huge problem in light therapy, especially laser. LED is not so much, but light with even a class 3 laser, which is technically marketed as a cold laser. There's no such thing, but it's marketed as a cold laser. Even with that, I can't put that on a person with a tattoo. I cannot put that directly on their skin. Well, class 4, you certainly can't do it. Now, with Aspen, before the topical, we can treat directly on skin on a tattoo. I think we're the only laser company in the world that does that. But I have to do a couple things. I have to turn off the 980 nanometer wavelength because that's where a lot of the heat comes from. I have to turn the power way, way down. And I, again, have to move the wand very, very quickly, still on the surface of the tattoo. But there's always that threat of thermal response and getting hot or having a thermal injury even. But we're so low power and we have to move so quick, we're just not getting much. Are we getting something? It's better than nothing probably, but pretty close to that. So even right now, Aspen is pretty unique in that we can do that. But now with the topical, what does that let me do?
When light hits the tattoo plane laterally or tangentially, it becomes trapped or confined within the tattoo plane. It doesn't escape. And that's where you get, and then the light energy is transformed into heat. It doesn't necessarily go through, it's stopped at the tattoo plane.
Okay.
When you have a culminated beam hitting the tattoo plane, there's always going to be a certain amount of light absorption with the ink because you can see the ink, but the majority of the light actually goes through the tattoo plane rather than becoming trapped or confined within the tattoo plane. You cannot do something on the surface of the skin that will completely eliminate the light confinement within the tattoo plane, but it will greatly diminish the amount of energy that is trapped within the plane.
Okay. So let's look at a slide for different skin tones. You've got one that shows kind of from very, very light skin, and there's a rating for all of these, and there's an index. But we would call the last one, what would be a 6, would not only be dark melanin, but probably a black ink tattoo. And that's where we would have to almost, in the past, not even treat, or, like I said, turn off the 980, go low power, move really, really fast, and hope for the best. Kind of how does that look with all these different skin tones now?
You're negating skin tone. Skin tone all of a sudden is now not really an issue. With the power levels that you're using, it's just a non-issue. It doesn't matter anymore.
So if we look at something like a Fitzpatrick 1 versus a 6, now there's no difference.
There's no you always increase the amount of light going through even a Fitzpatrick 1, because the surface, even without the melanin, you're going to see that there is a diminished amount of light going through it, a huge amount of scattering.
Okay.
You're kind of making them all the same. It just doesn't matter anymore.
So you wouldn't just use this topical on people with dark melanin or ink tattoos. You'd use that on everybody,
everybody.
For everything.
Absolutely.
Any skin tone, any treatment, anything where you want to improve results.
Yes. Yeah, you're going to get deeper. It just kind of it makes everything equal.
Okay. So let me try and kind of summarize everything. If we use a topical with, I would say on skin is the main impetus for this, but we could use off skin too. But I have my own theory about off skin lasers in the first place. So let's just talk about on skin. We're going to improve outcomes. We're going to do faster treatment times. We're going to get more energy directed into deeper tissues in the body. We're going to negate poor results where in the past, because of dark melanin or even a tattoo, we've had to turn the power way down, turn specific wavelengths off, and move really fast, which is terrible for absorption. We're going to negate all of that. And then I'm going to use this for better outcomes for any patient for any reason on their entire body, other than obviously the eyes.
Yes.
Right. So
exactly.
that's a game changer, right?
Well, I think it's going to become the new standard of care. There's no question about that.
It completely changes the standard of care. So especially like for me, my background is, collegiate and NBA basketball. Well, I got dark melanin and tattoos everywhere. So in the past decade, 2 decades, we just can't treat many basketball players with laser. It just is not a realistic possibility. Or we can treat that 1 square inch on their body that doesn't have a tattoo, right? But that's never where they get hurt.
Yeah, that's
shoulders and knees and things like that.
And then also you force them into taking things like ibuprofen, which are actually retards healing, whereas light energy does not.
Okay.
It actually is a holistic way of treating injury without retarding healing.
Okay. So we did some experimenting with this. We did some laser treatments, and we got some videos that we'd like people to see. I think they're pretty intriguing and kind of a game changer for people to actually see it for themselves. So you've got a couple of those. Let's throw those up and kind of walk through each one of those.
Let's look at some still shots of what you did. We did these at the Florida Chiropractic Association. I brought a thermal imaging camera, MyoVision, and I coupled it with a webcam. And this is the first shot we're looking at. You did 7 watts and 32 watts. And this is right after you stopped with the application of the laser. And you can see the difference between these two.
And this is without gel?
No, this is with gel. No, wait, you're only going to see with gel.
Okay.
There's no point in showing you without gel.
Right. We already know that.
We already know it's not going to work. And also, we were together, and you decided that you were going to try a 47 watt on a knee, and you were actually ashen when you came out, and I asked you what was wrong, and you said this changes everything.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah, 47 watts normally on a knee where there's not a lot of fatty tissue or muscle would be an unwise thing to try. Or if I did 47 watts, I'd have to move the wand so fast it wouldn't. Again, we're not getting any.
We'll look at the part of the video where you did this later on.
Yeah.
But the patient, and I could hear you talking to the patient, and you kept saying, "Is this okay?" So, "Oh, this is fine. This is fine."
Yeah, I was
it hot?
really nervous.
Oh no, it feels like warm like sunshine. That was your expression. It's like you were really nervous, and I believe that this guy had a very good outcome after this. Also.
He did.
So this was actually, I think, what kind of sealed the deal in your mind.
It's funny because a lot of the people who came by the booth and tried it on themselves were people who had class 4 lasers in their practice. And they were like, wait a minute, you're going to use how much power? Like, I don't think I want you to do that. I was like, look, we've tried this. You're safe. We're going to monitor. It's not going to get hot. You're not going to get burned. But they were a little shocked. So, okay. So, and then what's the next one?
This is a classic example of your sports analogy. This is a Fitzpatrick 4 patient that has
Fitzpatrick 4's dark melanin.
Dark skin. The Fitzpatrick score goes 1 is like a redhead, and 6 is somebody maybe a darker skin African. Here is a patient who had a lower leg injury and also had a tattoo. What are you going to do? So this person was treated lower thigh, knee, and lower calf.
Yeah.
So you're doing this treatment. Everything has gone good.
Well, let me tell you what.
Go ahead.
Let me tell you what I
would you
normally have to do. If I saw Fitzpatrick 4 with a tattoo and I had to treat on that area, number one, if I used all 4 wavelengths within 1 second at, let's say, 5 watts, within 1 second of me touching 5 watts that area, they would immediately yank your leg back and they would be rubbing it for about 20 seconds. It would feel like a cross between an electrical burn and a heat burn. It would be very uncomfortable, and I would probably get punched in the face. So what I would do if I had to treat that person on that area is I would turn the 980 wavelength off. Well, That's not good. That's a very beneficial wavelength, but I have to turn it off because there's so much heat. I turn it down maybe to 5 or 7 watts, and then I move that wand extremely quickly over the surface of the skin. But how much absorption am I getting? Not much. So that's what I'd normally do. So what did we do with the topical?
This patient was getting a 27 watt or a
27 watts.
This is a 27 watt
With all 4 wavelengths on.
All 4 wavelengths on, as it's shown here, starting at the lower thigh, down the knee, and to the calf. We didn't change anything. We just kind of ignored the presence of the tattoo.
Yeah.
It became a non-issue.
So that's why we're just saying.
It simplifies your treatment.
Yeah, it makes no difference between a 1 and a 6 on that scale.
No, it doesn't. They're the same.
Even with a dark black ink tattoo on dark melanin.
Yeah, and this is a classic example. This is a black ink tattoo on a Fitzpatrick 4 patient.
Okay. So are these still, now do we have videos of these as well?
Yeah, I'm not going to show you this one, but we have videos of other tattoo patients.
Okay, let's see. Let's check out some of the videos so you can kind of see these in action.
This is the 47 watt patient that you did, and we're just showing how you apply the topical.
So right now I'm just squirting topical on it. I don't have the laser on. I'm using the laser head to just kind of spread it evenly, and now we've started the session. Now you can see the lights on.
Now
we've got 47 watts again on no ink, no tattoo, but normal melanin, kind of average melanin skin. That's probably about a 2 or a 3, and we're moving pretty slowly, probably faster than I even needed. As I've gotten more comfortable with the topical, I've been able to move slower and slower and slower. But this was really our first trial run, and I mean, there's no way I would move that slow at 47 watts normally.
Yeah, just so you know that we're jumping around to make the video a little bit shorter here. So there was a jump cut there. But just see, this is more towards the end of the treatment, and you can see the deep, deep heating that you're getting. And this was, I believe it was only a 2.5 minute treatment. I think that was your standard time for that. So this is at the end of this will be 2.5 minutes.
Okay. So we've got another video where we're actually now right on a tattoo. So this is, so you can see the ink on the left arm there. It's a large, dark black ink tattoo. Normally I'd be, again, at 5 watts, they would immediately within a second yank their arm away as soon as I touched it. Even with turning 980 off, I probably wouldn't go much above 5 or 7 watts and have to move very quickly. We're now here with all 4 wavelengths on. We're at 40 watts of power, and we're moving at a moderate level of speed. And we're not having any thermal response on the skin. There's no discomfort at all.
Let me also say this topical is not a numbing topical. This is just made with grapeseed oil, jojoba, and squalane.
So we're not artificially numbing the skin.
We are not numbing the skin whatsoever.
And that is just on the thermal scan, that's light on the skin, or that's energy on the skin, or that's energy down in the muscle tissue?
This is energy below the skin surface. Now, this is immediately after you stopped. You stopped the treatment, but don't forget that now and a couple of minutes later, you can start seeing the heat from the deeper tissues.
Right.
That's the problem with thermography. It averages everything out.
Sure.
But it demonstrates that you got some deep heating and all the other thermography pictures you
without the thermal response, without that lateral
scattering.
Okay. And I think we had another tattoo.
This is a typical thing. Here is a fella with a shoulder tattoo. Okay. Every sports guy has a shoulder tattoo.
So we're rubbing the topical on right now. We're not using
this was actually a good way to do it. And the way you're putting the topical on was to so that you didn't have to use gloves, and you used the head to spread it around. That was actually a really good way.
So now we're at 32 watts on, a shoulder tattoo, dark black ink that would normally, there's no way we'd be able to get within a foot at 32 watts. And we're right on the skin. So now we can see the thermography as well.
And again, the tattoo plane is always going to pick up heat. You can't get away from that.
Right.
But a lot of the light is going through it rather than being absorbed by it.
Yeah, it's a permeable membrane now. It's just going right through it.
It's going through. It's a light permeable membrane.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. These are game changers, in the laser world.
Sports medicine. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
This is we followed this fellow. Okay, this is immediately after, and then this is about 2 minutes after, and then you can see the whole shoulder is. You can see that the heat. It's not the tattoo is not the thing that's showing the most heat.
Yeah.
And this is 2 minutes post.
So now it's all the same. It's the tattoo was not even there.
It's just doesn't matter anymore. You went below the tattoo. You know that the tattoo is not this big. You know that the tissue
Right.
below is actually what you're seeing.
Right.
And then a couple of minutes later, I'm going to do another jump cut. And this is about a few minutes after that.
There you go.
5 minutes post. This is 5 minutes post. And you can see the whole shoulder is warm. And it's the tattoo doesn't really read through that. So you're not looking at the tattoo plane heat. You're looking at the deeper tissue heat.
Yeah. That's amazing. So everything we've covered with Lucium, we've got, again, we can deliver more energy and deeper into the body, less thermal scattering. So we're getting a higher dosage down deep into the body. We're not getting a thermal response. We greatly reduce the risk of any thermal injury, if any at all, not by numbing, but by just making it translucent and permeable. The light is able to go through it. So anybody who's using any on-skin laser, but theoretically you could use this off-skin too. I think it would take people who use off-skin now and encourage them to go back on skin.
I would do a different topical for
Okay.
off-skin. It wouldn't reflect as much, and it would soak more into the skin, but it has the same high refractive index. It would function the same. You would get with off-skin, you get a little more reflection. You always get about 4 to 7% reflection on any surface. When you're doing on-skin, you're optically coupling the laser head through the media and into the stratum corneum. So all of a sudden you don't have reflection. So there's a 4 to 7% increase right there.
So that's where we're going to see better outcomes.
That's where you're going to see better outcomes.
And faster. Right now, with our laser, our average treatment time to get somebody kind of down to the result we want in the first session is about 7.5 minutes. But that's going to cut that down even more. We're going to shorten that time considerably, I would say.
Well, I watched you do it. Yeah. So, you definitely were getting a lot more light in a much shorter period of time because you were able to jump up the power a little bit.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So the topical, after it's on the skin, we're done with the laser. What does that do to the skin? Do they wipe it off? Do they wash it off?
It's a very skin-friendly, moisturizing topical. You just wipe it off.
Okay.
There's another application if you're ever going to do a massage after. Some chiropractors do massages after. This is a really great massage oil. And is typically used, grapeseed oil is typically used by a lot of massage clinics. So the ingredients are well known and they are very skin friendly. And you're not going to have any complaints. The first thing the patient's got to say, how does that feel? So, this feels really nice.
Okay. And you've got some of the girls in your office are kind of cheating and using it as a skin.
We have a couple of different, yes, we will see them. They'll take a bottle and they'll leave it on the desk at the reception desk, and you'll see them rubbing it in to their hands and on their elbows and sometimes down their neck and everything. It is a really nice moisturizer.
Great.
So, they just love it. They,
well,
unintended use.
Yeah, for sure. Unintended good consequences. Yeah. I will tell you that just as we've been using it in this, initial phase with our own patients for the last couple months, the result we notice, but the results the patients get is now every time they don't they demand, I want the topical. Their experience while going through laser is greatly enhanced. Their experience is different. When these talk about people we've treated for a long time without topical, with a good quality laser, and now we've added topical, well, they much prefer the experience with the topical without, and they ask for it every time they come in. They don't ever want to do it again without.
Why would you even not use it?
For sure.
It's like there's no point.
Yeah.
You know that your clinical outcome is going to be greatly enhanced.
And your patient experience is huge.
The patients will just love you more.
Awesome.
You're gonna treat them fewer times, and you're gonna have a much greater result.
Awesome. Well, Ed, thanks for joining us for our inaugural episode, our maiden voyage, and talking a little bit about Lucium. And thanks for creating it. I think it's a phenomenal product, and we look forward to bringing it to market here in the next month.
Terrific. Thanks. I look forward to moving forward also.
When you think